Getting your license when you're 16 is a rite of passage. You get to graduate from the school bus and then drive yourself to school. You get to drive you and your friends around without an adult to get you there. And the world is suddenly opened up to you, all because you have this little piece of plastic with your face on it. It's a beautiful thing, really. Unfortunately, I wasn't 16 when I got my license. I was 24. I wasn't a bad driver or anything. My dad just didn't have a car that would pass inspection for me to take my road test in. Fortunately, when I got married, my wife had her license and a car. But that car couldn't pass inspection either, so I didn't get my license right after I got married. Our junky little car's passenger door wouldn't open from the outside, and the driver window couldn't roll down, and the headlights were stuck on bright. It really was a crappy car. We drove that thing around the first 4 years we were married. Or she did. I didn't have my license, so I didn't do any of the driving. But eventually, our car started tearing up on a regular basis. Wheel bearings and motor mounts and transmission problems and other car things. It started to become a pretty unreliable car. I mean, it was a 1994 Chevy Corsica with like 250,000 miles on it, and if you don't know what that means in car lingo, that means it's a lot of miles and this thing's about to die. Luckily, we had been saving money from our jobs at Walmart to buy a newer car, and we did. Now, my dream car has always been the DeLorean, aka the Time Machine, aka the Back to the Future car. But to get one of those would cost a whole lot of money. It's way more money than we had. So we ended up settling on a used silver Mercury Sable. This was the first car that I ever purchased. The other car doesn't count because my wife got it when she was a teenager or whatever, but this was the first car that I ever bought, and me and my wife were so proud. I mean, we had a fancy, reliable car with working windows and doors and everything. It even had a 6 CD changer, which was mind-blowing. You don't have to take a CD out to listen to another CD. It does it all by itself. What a time to be alive. So now that we have a new car that can pass inspection, I get my license on like the second or third try or whatever, and I drove this thing to my new construction job all year long. I got a lot of speeding tickets that year. Even though my friend said it looks like something his grandma would drive around in, it was a pretty fast car. And the one morning that I wasn't driving fast, I hit a deer. It was all foggy that morning, so I was driving really slowly around these curves, like 15 miles an hour slow, and then BAM! I hit this little deer that was like the size of a big dog. I get out and I check on the deer, and its leg is all twisted up and mangled and gnarly looking. I didn't know what to do. I mean, the car knocked it off the road, so it's not like anybody else is going to hit it. So I look back and I check out the car, and other than my bumper being trashed and the hood being all bent up, it seemed like it was okay. So I drove on to work. Now, a normal person would turn this in on their insurance, pay the deductible, and have their hood and their bumper fixed, but we only had liability insurance on the car, aka only people are covered, not the car. So our slick luxury sedan looks like someone's old work car now. But that's not it. That's not how my first car got totaled. It just looks ugly now. It's still a good car and it runs good, so we keep on driving it for a few more years. The next year, my wife is working night shifts at a nursing home, and on the way to work, she hits a deer. This one's a little bit bigger. The bumper and the hood gets trashed even more, but it's still running. We still only have liability on the car though, because I don't feel like putting full coverage on a car this ugly. I don't know. Anyways, we keep driving it. So winter comes. And while I'm at work, it starts snowing, like really hard. They say it's supposed to snow like 6 inches, and they tell us to go on home. Now, from work to my house is like a 1-hour drive. Plenty of time for the snow to build up on the road and get deep. On the way to my house, there's this really steep hill that you have to drive down with a curve right in the middle of it. I'm going down this hill, and everything's fine until the curve. I cut the wheel to go along with the curve, but the car keeps going straight off the road into a tree. And this time it's bad. I mean, I have a huge gash in the fender now, and the bumper's completely gone, and the car won't move. It's still not totaled though. I call up my neighbor, and he drives his tractor over and pulls my car out of the ditch, and I drive this mess home. A couple of rolls of duct tape later, and she's ready to drive. Now, by this time, my car's earned the nickname Shark Bite, because it looks like a shark took a bite out of the front of it. Now, by this time, my wife hates this thing. She's embarrassed to be seen in this car, and I'm too cheap to buy something else. She says driving around in this thing makes me look like I'm a crack dealer, and she's right. One time I got pulled over for turning left in a left turn only lane without using my left turn signal. The cop ended up giving me a breathalyzer and a ticket, which was one that I couldn't get out of because apparently that's a real thing. You can't turn left in a left turn lane without using your left turn signal. They could pull you over for that. I didn't know that. But still, I blame it on the way the car looked. Let's see. Got my license. I hit that one deer. She hit the other deer. I slid off the road into the tree. I think that's all of them. Okay, so here we go. This is how I totaled my first car. It was an ordinary day. My car's parked at the bottom of the hill at this construction site where I always park, and I have to use this air compressor, and it's attached to this big service truck that we use at work. I drive this truck to the top of the hill and I use the compressor, and when I'm done I shut the truck off. Same thing every day, nothing out of the ordinary. Except, 2 hours later, I see one of my coworkers running and flailing his arms like crazy, and I turn around and I look just in time to see this huge truck smash into the front of my car. I had apparently left the truck in neutral and forgot to set the park brake. For some reason, it took this truck 2 hours to finally start rolling down the hill. But when it did, it rolled down and it picked up a lot of speed and it smashed the crap out of my car. This time, duct tape couldn't help. The entire front end was smashed. My insurance wouldn't pay anything since it happened at work and it falls on my work's insurance. But since I didn't set the park brake on the truck, it was my fault. So, needless to say, my work insurance wouldn't take care of it, and my personal insurance wouldn't take care of it. So, I didn't get any money out of it, and I lost a car. Now, I thought my wife would be furious over this because this is the only car we have, but she was actually pretty happy because now I have to buy her a new car. I ended up talking her into letting me buy a Jeep Wrangler, which is going to take me forever to pay off. So now, further into my driving career, I'm a whole lot more careful now. I use the cruise control whenever I can to avoid speeding tickets. I'm always on the lookout for deer. I use my turn signals when I need to, and the four-wheel drive has kept me on the road for the past 2 winters. Luckily, there hasn't been a single accident since we got our new car. Fingers crossed. If I'm lucky, this thing will make it to when my son is 16, and I can pass whatever's left of it down to him so he can have his license before he's in his 20s. So that's how I crashed a truck into my car without being in either of them. There's no lesson of the story this time, unless you count, make sure you set a park brake on the truck that's above your car so it doesn't crash into your car? No, there's no lesson this time. So with, the end.
1, 2, 3!